Your character's name?
Oh, Kallie.
Oh.
And we're live.
Okay. Good morning, good evening, good night, everybody, and welcome once again to another session of Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York. Tonight we have a young black fury by the name of Kallie, all by her lonesome, practicing on a hill in the Umbra, in fact, as she attempts to master the art of the double-sided axe, so known from her tribe. We begin with her trying very hard to hit the umbral shadows of various things in the park, when she's approached by a figure of somebody that was here before her time that she doesn't quite recognize. A very intense woman, much older than many of the Garou in the Sept, barring a nasty scar across her face. She stops, and she watches Kallie's technique for a moment, just, holding her chin with one hand and nodding, before she finally decides to speak up. That needs a little work.
Kallie, for her part, is trying her best to do flourishes into her strikes, making them fluid, as she kind of swipes at the umbral shadows. And every time that she does so, the weight of the weapon now are completely foreign to her, always offsets her motions, and the grip slides slightly in her hand, making her movements clumsy and just embarrassing might be a good word for it. As the voice comes up from behind her, Kallie turns, letting the weapon fall or at least letting the weapon in her hand fall to the bottom of the pommel, as she turns around and narrows her eyes, looking at this individual who's approached her. Yeah, I suppose it is. Does need work, doesn't it?
Yes, I'm sure you'll get better in time. You are young after all. It takes time to master a new weapon.
It does. So, she'll take the axe's pommel and rest it on her shoulder. You are?
She stands a bit straighter, very proud to announce her title. Says, well, I must be before your time. My name is Wasp Stinger. I am an Athro of the Black Furies, former alpha of this sept, in fact.
Kallie will nod her, or lower her head in a bow. Wow. She kind of chews on her lip as she seems to be thinking about something, and then she rests the weapon on the ground. Why did you give up that place of power, then?
I did not give it up. It was earned by a Garou of more prowess. And besides, Garou of my rank have a lot of work to do. Sometimes leaving the sept to the young ones is a wise decision.
But have you seen the condition of the sept recently? The way they walk around, the way they talk, the way they comport themselves?
I've heard stories. You might be interested to know that's why I've come back. In fact, I've heard some interesting tales about how you, our tribe's representative in the sept, have been conducting yourself.
She gets a standoffish, brusque expression upon her face.
She just quirks an eyebrow, waiting to see if she's gonna say anything.
What do you mean conducting myself poorly? I've been restraining myself.
Yes, but I don't know if you've been restraining yourself enough. I think it's time to teach you a bit of temperance. to show you how we must get along with those outside our tribe.
You gotta be fucking kidding me, right?
I highly doubt you really think I came here just to jest. I'm offering you help. Do you want it or not?
She takes a moment to consider all the implications of what's going on here, and she, being young and headstrong and perhaps not full of forethought, she takes a little moment or a little bit for the social cues and the reality of what's going on to set in on her. I guess that all depends on what you have in mind, honestly.
You see the corner of her mouth twitch upward just a little bit, just a bit of a smile, and she says, "Good to know you're not outright rejecting me." How long have you been Garu, Kallie?
Since I was 13,
And how old are you now?
I'll be 19 in a few weeks.
He nods. Have you given any thought as to what you're actually doing?
At this point, she's actually taken a couple steps to closer towards Wasp's stinger to, listen to her. But she sort of crosses her arms in a mild look of, she looks somewhat insulted. What the hell is that supposed to mean?
I mean, do you really understand your purpose? You're an Ahroun as well. You know that you fight. Do you know why you fight? Is there more than fighting for you?
Well, I mean, I fight for people in my old set. I fought alongside my mother when I rite of passage, and she kind of grows a little bit somber and says the rite of passage part very softly.
Well, yes, you know your duty, but what does that mean for you?
Before, I guess I fought for family, but I don't really have that, at least not in a Garu sense anymore. I mean, I met my dad, but, I'm not around my sisters anymore, and my mom passed during my rite of passage, so honestly, I don't know what I'm fighting for.
She just nods. This is something that all of us, Ahroun, have to figure out for ourselves, I'm afraid. But until then, going around and fighting for no reason, picking battles that may even harm the Sept, that's not the way of the Ahroun.
She kind of swallows hard as she really has no counter argument to that. She has to concede that. Just frustrating because everybody here seems to be stuck on the fact that I'm a Black Fury, and they just have to point it out all the time.
Well, you are a Black Fury. Is that not a point of pride?
It is, but they don't treat it as such. They treat it as a way to goad me and to fucking piss me off. And
I'm sorry, my sound cut out for a second. Could you say that again?
she basically said that the way most of the set members have used it is a means to goad her into, you know, acting out.
Well, why would it Why would it even tempt you to act that way if you were proud of it?
Because it's disrespectful to our tribe. Oh, Black Furies, if a guy says anything, they're supposed to lose their minds at the drop of a hat. It's like they want to try and push my buttons just for the sake of pushing my buttons.
No, they don't want that. What they want is an excuse to treat you as if you're not in control of your own emotions. You see, we Garu, we've been a horribly patriarchal society since the beginning, really. And they've started to get used to their position of power. To have strong Garu women like us, it just rubs them the wrong way. They feel threatened, not because we're trying to take from them, but because we're trying to claim what is owed to us. You understand?
She nods. I do.
So then, as a Black Fury, then, what are you fighting for?
I want to do my mom proud. I want to do my dad proud. I want him to see me as a champion.
Just by being Garu, you're a champion of Gaia, are you not?
I am. It's just I didn't know him up until a month ago, and I feel like I have to. He never got to see me do all the things that my mom told me she was proud of. And since coming here, I haven't had a real opportunity to show him, who I am, who I can be. And really, all I've done is I'm surprised he even puts up with me. Honestly, I've torn his apartment up several times already.
He just nods. I see. But you're doing all of this just for his approval?
It means a lot to me. He really cared about my mom, and they never got to. They never really got to have, that moment that most, mothers and fathers do. He never even knew about me, and he's lost as much as I have. I have to be. I have to make him proud. I have to give him something worthwhile.
You are worthwhile. You're a very young Garu. You don't need to destroy the worm all by yourself. You're fighting an extremely hard battle right now. And while I know it's typical to say, you don't need that man's approval. You need you need to focus less on what he thinks and more on what you need to do. What will make you feel like you're benefiting Gaia?
I don't know, honestly.
And she nods. That's as valid an answer as any. Many of us never know what place truly calls to us. In fact, there are many Garu who have lived and died, doing nothing but the commands of another.
I don't mind following orders. I don't mind serving the Sept or Sept Alpha. It doesn't bother me. It's just I'd like to stand out among the others. I want to live up to my bloodline. There are a lot of heroic furies in our line. I just want to be one of them.
Someday, with any luck, you will be. But right now, Kallie, right now your focus isn't to go out and perform heroics on yourself. You need to you need to really know what you're doing, why we're doing it. I think it would do you some good just to stop stop fighting so much and just to take some time to think. I know that seems counterintuitive to our auspice, but, well, the benefits would be insurmountable.
Benefits of what?
Of thinking.
It's not exactly my strong suit, unfortunately.
He nods and smiles a bit. I may know somebody who can help you, depending on how dedicated you are.
Well, I did try spending time with the stargazers, but sitting in idle meditation for more than 30 minutes got really tiring really quickly.
Well, if meditation is not your way, then perhaps something more dynamic may help you.
I'm open to trying new things.
She smiles a bit again. That's what I like to hear. And she looks around for a moment, and she says, "So, the spirit I'm about to summon is an old friend, but I would want to make sure that we're not wasting his time. Are you truly dedicated to opening up your senses and learning more about our fates?"
It takes her a long moment, and she actually does stop to think to consider it. And there are many things that kind of flash through her mind. In her mind, following certain spirits, it always came down to spirits of war and cunning, ones that would grant her great martial power. But at the same time, she knows she does have a problem with her temper. And so she finally looks up and just silently nods at Wasp's stinger.
And she nods back. And she takes a step back, and you can see she begins to really focus on something, even going so far as to sit cross-legged in front of you. And she just waits patiently, just for a few moments.
Kallie kind of kneels down onto both knees and sits on her heels, her hands kind of resting on her lower thighs.
After some meditation, you think a good bit of time has passed. For you, it feels like hours. For real, well, probably only half of one. But after a while, you notice a faint little, distortion in the air around you, almost as if something is cloaked nearby. And as you look at it, you see slowly a single pair of eyes start to appear, and they look around. It doesn't take you very long to notice the multicolored spirit of a chameleon appearing before you. The wasp stinger will gesture to this spirit and turn to you and say, Kallie, this is the great spirit chameleon, but he's helped more than his fair share of young Ahroun.
She kind of gives an exasperated laugh, almost as if in a bit of wonderment of how it seemed to come from nowhere. And she kind of smiles brightly. Cool.
The chameleon approaches you, and it looks at you with its two weird little wiggly eyes, and just slowly gets closer before sitting down and just watching you. Wasp Stinger doesn't appear to have anything to translate at the moment. Just the spirit looking you over and trying to get a look at your essence of your own spirit, as it were.
After a moment of being observed, she's not exactly sure what she's supposed to do, so after giving it a brief thought, she considers an option, and she decides to stand in front of it, and she kind of does a bit of a turn on her feet, kind of slowly turning about, arms up, so Chameleon can get a full look at her.
The chameleon, you notice there's no noticeable reaction from it. It just stares at you, watching your movements, and sort of, you don't feel like it's judging, but simply trying to take you in. After a while, Stinger will look at it, and it will turn to her. And she'll nod, and she says, Chameleon wishes for you to prove yourself.
And she kind of swallows. Okay.
After that, Chameleon will look at you, then to Wasp Stinger, and then it will turn and start walking back into the forest. Is there a forest right beside the hill?
In the Umberscape, I would imagine so. It's the cairn is right next to him, and I'm sure the cairn proper would have trees all around the heart of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then it will guide you that way, back towards the cairn, back towards the wooded areas, towards the more natural areas. Still quiet. You can almost, well, it makes you wonder just how it speaks to Wasp Stinger, for you hear nothing even resembling spirit speech to your ears.
She will pick up the Labris and her collapsible bow and sling those over her back as she starts to follow through the trees, watching and just trying to be silent to see what he's up to. And she seemingly seems to think that maybe more forethought means checking one's surroundings completely, almost as if she's waiting for an ambush. So she seems a little on edge.
The chameleon quietly and calmly guides you through the forest, and it's through the umbral forest, and it's not long until, well, you start to hear a bit of a ruckus. it's not terribly long until the three of you come upon a couple of spirits. They appear to be feuding. It looks like something has set a fire elemental on edge and it has started rampaging around, having a very strong dispute with some other spirits that just barely flicker in and out of your vision.
Kallie,
Chameleon sits and waits for you to decide what you're going to do about this.
she looks at the two spirits sort of clamoring against each other. She then looks down at Chameleon and then up to Wasp's stinger. I don't suppose I could ask for a clue.
He looks to the chameleon, but there's a silence between them for a moment before she looks at you. Chameleon wishes for you to solve this problem.
Kallie will crouch down at the edge of this clearing, and she'll try to observe what's going on for a moment. She's going to try and see if she can't get a better look at the spirit that seems to be flickering in and out of her sight.
You actually give me a perception roll just to see if you can really catch it.
Perception and
Alertness.
alertness. All right. Well, or one success.
Okay. You're able to glance upon it just barely, and you recognize it appears to be a swirling body of air, which is difficult to spot at best, but the energy it kicks up is still in a fairly consistent shape. It and the fire elemental keep almost dancing together as they try to hit each other, and you can hear some strange garbled howls and some loud cracking that you assume to be the spirits arguing with each other. They're both very angry about something.
She stands and she scratches the back of her head. She legitimately is not sure what to do. She thinks that perhaps, given Chameleon's, or what she knows, what little she knows of Chameleon's nature, that maybe she's supposed to resolve this dispute between the two of them. But she knows she's very hampered in trying to do this because she doesn't have the gift of spirit speech. She lets out kind of a big huff, and she'll take the two weapons off of her back and take the quiver and set it down beside them, and then take the black coat off of her shoulders as she sort of just walks forward, and despite the damage she knows she's definitely going to take off of the spirit, the fire elemental, she's going to try and stand between the two of them, kind of both arms out as if trying to break up a fight. And she'll kind of shout out, "Enough!"
The two elementals are shoved away from each other. Thankfully, the fire elemental manages not to burn you. As the two are left sort of staring at you in attention, they don't understand this word enough, but they understood the shoving. The wind elemental seems to have calmed down just a bit to stare at you curiously, but the fire elemental, it's grown larger, and its flames start to lick the sky even higher.
There's a brief moment where Kallie thinks that she has made very poor life choices. She looks to Wasp's stinger Can you translate for me?
Wasp finger nods and steps forward. Whatever you wish to say to them.
Ask them what the issue is between the two of them, please.
She nods, and you see her look to the two spirits. And she does repeat the question. She asks them in what you perceive to be English to be, what are you two fighting about? And you can see the fire elemental grow more agitated, as does the wind elemental as they make their various odd, incomprehensible noises with her. And she says, fire elemental is angry that wind elemental keeps blowing out their flames, even the campfires, before they can really begin. Wind elemental claims it is his right.
She clasps her fingers together and she starts to try and think of a way to resolve this. She thinks they're both being fairly unreasonable, but doesn't voice that. Or at least not right away. And she, remembering some of her high school physics classes, she finally turns to Wastinger. Tell them that they're both being indolent or fighting for no good reason.
Well, Stinger will relay this information to the elementals, but they don't seem to take your words very kindly. The fire elemental definitely flares up and sort of comes close to you, to the point where you can feel its flames licking you. And while it has no face to speak of, you can tell it's very angry. It starts to shoot off bursts of flames and try to move around you to get back at the air elemental.
Kallie will shift up into Glabro, and she'll throw her hand out to try and stop it, almost as she was trying to shove it.
Well, my rolls are surprisingly in your favor. You don't take any damage from it again. But it definitely does stop. You can see it's still very agitated, and Wasp Stinger will reply, it thinks you're accusing it of something it didn't do, of something that's not true.
The only thing I'm accusing it of is being unreasonable at the moment.
It thinks it's simply doing its job.
It is, but, and she'll turn back over towards the air elemental, they're both in the wrong here. She says with a bit of trepidation, as if she's not really sure what's going to happen if she has two angry spirits on either side of her, but she's holding both arms up regardless.
And the wind elemental seems more willing to calm down than the fire elemental. It just sits and watches, waiting to figure out what the two werewolves are trying to do with their fight. Wasp Stinger replies, they want to know what you would do.
The two of them should work in conjunction with each other. Fire can't exist without air. If this fire elemental were to start a small fire, and if the wind elemental were to use a gentle breeze to coax the flames to life, they could create something together.
Can I get a charisma plus expression roll from you?
I will give it my best. That was not Callie's strong suit. Well, a whole whopping 2 dice there, so it's just straight charisma. I'm going to spend a willpower point on this.
Okay.
And thank God I did.
Oh, well, the spirits seem to get at each other for one more moment after Walsh Stinger translates for you. But you see them both sort of start to calm down. While they both seem very on edge, you see them start to walk back towards one of the campfires. And, the two of them search around and manage to find a lit cigarette butt that the two they coax into a small campfire trapped around a bunch of rocks. And while Kallie will probably have to go put this out if she doesn't want a forest fire in the real world, the two spirits seem to have at least started to attempt to work together.
Kallie, for her part, will she's not going to dare put it out while the two of them are still there. Considering she just got them to work together, and that would be like getting two arguing children to build some like a sand castle together and then stomping on it a moment later. So she'll just kind of stand there and wait, arms kind of held at her sides as she watches the two interact and create something.
Mm-hmm. Chameleon and Wasp Stinger will join you once again. Chameleon looking up at you quizzically. It's waiting for you to tell it what you've learned, what you see that happened in this situation.
Sometimes two opposing forces that seem opposite can build something together. If they only stop and maybe not let things come to blows.
Chameleon doesn't quite yet seem satisfied with this answer. It looks back at the campfire and looks at you, waiting for something more substantial.
Kallie, not with the absolute devoidance of expression. She has to really think about her words, not knowing if she's even capable of appeasing Chameleon. As the air elemental seems to get a little bit more rowdy in the background. She crosses her arms and she starts chewing on her lip as she's trying to think. These two would have fought each other, and neither of them would have gotten what they wanted. If they had been both left to be obstinate in their own way. And if maybe they had sat and considered what they could have achieved together, they could have created, or each had a part in creating something. Fire would have gotten its right to create a fire, and wind would have been able to express its domain over air by nurturing the flames into something more than just what fire could have brought on its own. She looks unsure of herself, but that seems to be the best that she can muster with a very clear deficiency of social graces.
Chameleon, you see that it sort of gives you a small nod And Wasp Stinger translates this as, Chameleon feels like you need a lot of practice in the ways of observation.
Well, I'm trying. I really am.
Then she looks down at Chameleon and says this, and it looks at you for a moment, watching your expression. After a while, you hear, Chameleon has decided to offer you its blessing, on the condition that you abstain from fighting for a brief period, only to listen and to learn, especially within your sept.
She swallows hard because she knows that is going to be very difficult for her. What if agents of the worm should become an issue?
You may fight agents of the worm, but do not go to blows with other Garu, even if you feel they've wronged you. Anything that is not worm-tainted deserves the respect to try to understand it and its point of view.
I can only promise to try.
You see that Chameleon nods. And Wasp Stinger says, Chameleon is pleased with your respect towards its ideals, and if it is not the right totem for you, it bears no hard feelings. But it will take some work to follow his morals and his way.
Raya, when you were growing up, how did you get your temper under control?
Um, she looks at you and she sort of laughs. I'm still trying to get my temper under control perfectly. The most important thing is to remember who are your enemies and who that temper should be directed towards. Fighting each other simply gives the worm an advantage. You understand?
Yes, but well, what would you do if your compatriots not of the tribe decided to make a joke out of you every time you were around?
Then prove them wrong. Prove that you're not to be joked about. You're not some militant, man-hating Black Fury. You're a warrior, a Black Fury whose purpose is to protect women, to protect the downtrodden, to protect those that the worm would destroy. Show them that your tribe is something to be proud of, not something to be made fun of.
This is going to be really hard for me.
It's hard for all of us, but if you can show them that we, the Black Furies, we are paragons of honor, we are defenders, and we are as strong as any other tribe, then they'll learn to respect you as well.
She nods.
I do believe I'll be hanging around a bit to help deal with this storm problem you have going on. If at any time you'd like to learn more about your heritage and learn about what you have to be proud of, I believe I could set aside a bit of time for you.
She smiles and responds in Greek with, "Thank you very much."
She nods her head and in Greek replies, Anything for a sister. And then she gestures towards your weapon and says, you need more practice with that.
It's heavy and unbalanced. I'm really good with a bow, and she reaches down to pick them both up. This is just a completely different animal.
You'll master it in time. It's not unbalanced, it just has a different balance. You must learn to be an entirely different warrior when wielding a different weapon. You're not the same when fighting with a bow than you are when fighting with your claws.
True. Though I'm really good at that, and she kind of holds one hand up after she slings the quiver and the bow back over her shoulders.
Then Wasp Stinger sort of pats you on the shoulder and says, and you will be good with both in time.
I don't suppose you could teach me how to speak to spirits at some point.
She considers this and she nods. Yes, I could teach you at some point. Come see me before the next time you'd like to meet with Chameleon. I'll teach you so that you can speak to him for yourself.
She nods, and then she stops to see if she can't spot the chameleon still around, or if he's gone into his blending in with his surroundings thing.
Give me a perception plus alertness. Difficulty on this is going to be 9.
Does she already get the bonus from Chameleon?
Yeah.
Hot diggity damn. How's 3 successes sound?
Not bad at all. You take a moment to focus, looking for your totem, and you feel this strange surge of sensation. It's as if things have grown more detailed, more bright. There's just more there for you to notice. It's almost overwhelming in a way, and you feel yourself get a bit dizzy. But as you're steadying yourself, out of the corner of your eye, you see the milky blur of distorted light, a single eye, and perhaps a bit of a smile, before it disappears into, well, as far as you know, thin air. I believe, unless there's anything else you wanted to do, this is where we can end our scene.
I do think that we can end here with a very aware Kallie Krakos.
Thank you for playing. Thank you, whoever might be watching. And stay safe out there.